So good afternoon, Bernie Brookes, CEO of Edcon. Welcome to Dubai and World Retail Congress 2016. With day one, afternoon of day one, what are some of the key messages and takeaways you've taken from the event so far?
Sure, I think firstly it was a great opportunity to understand a little bit more about Dubai and the plans of the Dubai government. I mean,
Right.
It's an astonishing place. I mean, it's like a big Meccano set at times, but I'd add to that it's just a great retail environment. They've got such a diversity of retail here, very much a premium end of retail with very little discounting, and they've done a great job building on that. So I think, and their aspiration for sort of 7% growth, and how they're moving away from an over-reliance on oil
Right.
to being able to make it such a tourist destination, I think is admirable, and the way in which they're working on continuous improvement and development. So I think from that point of view it was tremendous. I think the rest of the sessions today have been predominantly around two themes. The first is the omni-channel experience, which I think everybody knows a lot of, but I think there's a swing back to bricks and mortar as a more important part, instead of this over-reliance on the internet's going to kill retail, and I think we're at last realising...
Did you see that as a welcome
It was
there?
welcome, and I think realistic, because I think nobody saw that the internet was going to kill retail, and I think what we've now moved to is a good balance between the two and an understanding. And I think the last area was one of understanding a little bit more about the premium end of the market and luxury, and how they are finding it reasonably tough at the moment after quite a few good years of growth, and how they're managing to cater for that. And potentially, I think the overwhelming issue is they may well be a little bit over-penetrated in the number of stores and number of doors that they've got.
Right, okay. And earlier in your session you talked about the need for, or the optimism you had about retail continuing to adapt, it will thrive in this period of disruption. And you talked about those factors that retailers need to do, from value, personalisation, community fun, all that big long list. If you had to pick, what's the most important element to get right? What would it be?
Sure, I think we're in a constant state of flux, and therefore the two or three things that I would hang my hat on is probably the quality of the people aspect to it. Okay. I mean, you can't fit a bra on the internet, you can't fit a suit on the internet, and you certainly can't touch and feel the product on the internet. So I think potentially the quality of the people and the expertise in-store is really important. And if you look at Pets Barn, if you look at the quality of people at Apple, if you look at Nordstrom's, if you look at some of those great service environments, they're quite sustainable during the current period that we're in. So therefore I see sizably a great opportunity for service and people to be number one. And I think the second component is what I would call the integrated use of technology. And whether it's digital or whether it's being agnostic to the channel, I think if you've got fast, effective technology, good quality people, they're two common denominators for success.
Okay. And in terms of people, there was some of the discussion earlier was about the capabilities of the CEO of today and tomorrow. Yeah. What does the successful CEO look like in your mind?
I think there was a couple of comments that the CEO today is not going to be the CEO of tomorrow, and I actually disagree with that. I think the CEO of today can be the CEO of tomorrow, but perhaps the mix of people that he has working with him or her, and the quality and the characteristics are very different as well.
Right.
So therefore, I think you do want young technotots. You want digital warriors, you want people that understand the customer psyche and the new customer psyche, and you need a millennial touch. Right. So if you've got all that, you can still there's very little difference between a CEO that potentially may well have had to have a supply chain expert or an IT expert. So it just means you've got to have more strings in the bow, but I don't think you need to throw the whole bow away to be successful.
Right, okay. And you talked about some of the retailers you name-checked and admired, Costco, Aldi, Selfridges. And it was interesting, I think yours was the first mention of Amazon in the day. Yep. And you're confident, I think, that retailers can compete with the likes of Amazon?
Yeah, I think one way to think about it is Amazon have spent an enormous amount of money and lost an enormous amount of money setting up the infrastructure, the online mechanics of a marketplace. And now they're looking to move to bricks and mortar. So if a new bookstore opened in your environment, would you really be worried about it? The answer is no. So they have a long way to go to understand the integration of bricks and mortar with online. Whereas most other major players in the world today have already come to grips with online and in-store. So I think they're going on a whole new learning curve. So I think what it will do is potentially desensitise the way in which they impact the rest of the environment while they're getting this right. And whether it's an acquisition strategy to give them a penetration, but they've still got a whole new learning to get. I mean, they're very good at online, they're very good at marketplace, great at a supply chain, but potentially they've still only got one part of the equation that customers want today.
Okay. And who do you most admire in the retail space? You know, which businesses?
I think Selfridges are a business that I really like. I think it's they brought back in that fun and entertainment and theatre to retail. I think Aldi are just a monster from the point of view of their ability to concentrate on price and combine that with a discovery environment.
Right.
And I think a mature retailer, but Macy's has done a tremendous job integrating online and in-store and getting the customer service right and concentrating on a few things and what I would call sticking to your game. When a lot of retailers flirt, they've stuck to their way forward. So they'd be three that I think have done a tremendous job. There's some great smaller businesses. Ted Baker's doing a tremendous job at the moment, rolling out stores, getting it right across boundaries. And I think you're seeing other businesses such as Tiger do a very good job throughout Europe. So there's a real mixture, but to me, I think Aldi's been a standout from my point of view for their ability to stick to things, and full credit to Macy's, a mature business that's done a good job.
Okay, good stuff. So looking ahead to the next 12 months, what do you think will be the biggest challenges for the retail industry to tackle?
I think we've got a lot of political uncertainty around the world and a lot of economic pressures, and I think they're the things necessarily we can't control, whether it be an election, whether it be terrorism and the uncertain social environment. I mean, we've seen the part that's played in Belgium, in France. We've seen the impact that's had on such things as retail in airports. So we're starting to see that have now a bigger impact. And so I think they were the things that we can't control, being social unrest, certainly being political decisions and government policy, and the general economic malaise across a lot of continents. I think those are the things that are going to make it even more difficult than it has been over the last 12 months. I think from the perspective of the constant disruptor in the business, I think there's no doubt, I think everybody's now learned how to manage, work with, be part of, compete against anything from an online point of view. But what we don't know is that new young startup that's in a garage, that's just going to come out and disrupt us again, may not be in the next 12 months, but they are going to have a sizable impact on the rest of business.
And how do you keep close to the innovative disruptors? Do you have teams looking at them, or do you make sure you're out and about yourself?
A bit of everything. I think you've, I've got grey hair, so therefore I didn't grow up sitting in front of a computer. And you've got to learn, and you've got to self-taught, and you've really got to understand how that'll work. So reading, searching the internet, but surrounding yourself with good quality digital people, good quality CIO, and then understanding that there's an opportunity at conferences such as this and readings and information from businesses such as Planet Retail that give us a really good opportunity to find out what's happening around the world.
Okay, and so you mentioned the World Retail Congress. What brings you here every year, and what are you hoping to get out of the next few days?
Well, I think the world's getting smaller and retail's the same. I mean, before the barriers and the boundaries across countries and continents used to be sizable. Today they're not. And whether you go in another state or another territory in the country you're in, or go to another country, there's so many similarities now, some at various levels of advancement, so therefore you can actually learn a hell of a lot from what's happening in other countries, because potentially we'll all morph into be the same one day, in sort of like one big country, and therefore you're better off understanding how that's going to work and how that journey will take us.
Okay, and any other speakers and sessions you're most looking forward to?
I think it'd be great to, certainly the Hall of Fame, to have the opportunity to listen to people pay tribute to Sol and also to Joe. I think a couple of the standouts that I'm looking forward. Also, I think the Gilbert's interview with Tommy will be really interesting as well. So there's some real highlights, I think, this year, and some real good quality presentations yet to come. And
final question then, so next year, if you were Ian planning next year's event, what are the themes you think will be on the list next year?
Yeah, I think that entrepreneurial component and that newness of whether it be new product, new venture, we've got to get some degree of understanding the newbies, if you like, into the marketplace. And rather than listen to some of the tried and proven guys, perhaps the new guys that are starting up as to why they've entered into market. So I think there's a space for entrepreneurs. I'd also like to see some significantly younger speakers that are going to lead us into the future. It'd be great to hear somebody that's 18 that started their own company in a garage and what they're thinking about the future. And instead of panels of old retailers, why not get some panels of some good 16, 17, 18-year-old kids to find out how they're going to shop in the future.
Okay, great. Well, Bernie Brookes, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Much obliged.